All right. All right, here we go again. Here we go again. Been playing around with some lighting in here. Must be nice to have those teams of people taking care of all this stuff for you, huh? Getting a hold of people, setting up your audio, your video, your lighting, making everything proper. Maybe even making you a cup of coffee. I'm just kidding. All right, so what do I got? Quick note, Sarah, I have I think I had 60 so far. 60 people marked as look into to speak to here one-on-one with me. And I started that folder back in March. Remember that? And I sent out an email. I think I started a separate email for it. And I sent out, I think I sent an email to 5 or 6 people just to start. And a few of them replied back that they didn't think it was me and it was a spam email and started cursing me and shit. That was pretty funny. But anyway, Sarah, I can't do everything. I try to do everything nonstop, and I just can't. So Sarah is going to be creating an email, and she is going to get a hold of the people so far that need to be have a conversation about what they know, what they experienced with me, with all of you through me. All right, and she's going to do that. I don't know what the email is going to be. It might be talk with Steve at howtohunt.com or something like that. I don't know, but she's going to do it. All right, and that way I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to try to do it. I don't have to. Just getting an email out for me isn't the easiest thing these days. So, but when she contacts the people, many of you, then she will line up the time and let me know what time, what day, and it doesn't matter if I'm here or if I'm out in the woods or on the boat. I'll have the Starlink and I'll be able to do it. It'll be very simple, and it won't be live unless you want to. I don't give a shit, but I think many people would probably have items that they would want edited out of that conversation, maybe probably. So either way, it'll be pre-recorded, okay? Pre-recorded and then dropped on the planet the next day, I'd imagine. And to help keep the respect the people's privacy with whatever they want to keep, whatever they wish to be kept private. I think we're going to learn. We're going to learn a great deal doing this. I am anyway. So I think it'd be really great. Instead of just reading these emails from people, you can see a face and hear a voice and connect and make friends too, right? So that's the big word on the street coming right up. Sarah is in charge of that. She's going to be a lot of the people here left a phone number to text them or an email. She's going to be hitting you up real quick. Okay? Okay. There's the word. So while I was looking into that folder, I came across even more emails, not marked as read, as usual. And we're going to see what was said here and whether or not I even, excuse me, had read them or not. I'm not sure. We're going to look into here. Hold on a minute. Where am I? Now listen to this. This is a longer email. The title really caught my eye, and it wasn't marked as read. This email is titled, "We Shot It." When I was 13, I had an encounter that I will never forget. I grew up in the country and have hunted everything possible in my area. I was in the woods every chance I could get all year round, and here's what happened. My parents' neighbor has hundreds of forest acreages. My brother and I were friends with his son. We hunted his father's land constantly. The neighbor's son and my brother asked if we could build a log cabin back in the woods. The father said no problem. So about 5 of us teenagers built a small cabin several miles back in the woods. It was roughly about 12 foot by 15 foot with a tin roof and a temporary plywood floor that was too small. There was about an 8-inch gap at the top of it. If we weren't in school, we stayed in that cabin all year round, hunting and being kids and having fun. What a freaking riot. The cabin wasn't finished by any means, but was pretty good for kids building it. Between the logs, we hadn't chinked it, but had used rolled up feed bags to close the gaps until we could chink it properly. Inside the cabin, northeast corner, we had in the corner a bunk bed, and next to it we had a bed that hung from the north wall. West wall was a table. The south wall was the door in the center of the wall. The southeast corner was a small wood stove, and in the rafters was one skinny plywood plank bed. One night my brother, the neighbor, and some city friends and I stayed in the cabin. We had played penny poker until about 1 a.m., and we decided it was time to bunk out. My brother and I decided to share a bunk because we didn't have enough blankets? The city boys were on the top bunk, and one in the rafter bed. The neighbor was on the wall bunk. After about 30 minutes, we bunked down. Something started hitting the northeast corner of the cabin. That's the corner where the bunk bed was. It sounded like an axe chopping at the logs. Ooh. It didn't scare us at first because we constantly had people show up to stay in the cabin, and we thought one of our friends had shown up and was trying to scare us. And yes, people would show up late at night. They would come after work. Anyway, my brother hollered out to whomever it was, asking who it was. He got no reply other than the chopping kept going on. He and the neighbor followed up by whoever is out there needs to tell us who it is because we have guns. And if you don't reply, you could get shot. No reply again. So they signaled me to chamber my pump shotgun, which I did. It was done to get the point across to whomever it was. No reply, just chop, chop, chop. At that time, we became scared. Who is not afraid of a shotgun? We started asking each other if we knew any of our friends that said they were going to come up. We came to no one that we knew of. My brother hollered out to whatever it was he was going to shoot if they didn't answer in the count of 3. He stuck his rifle barrel between the logs on that corner and counted. After 3, he fired 1 shot. No answer, and the chopping stopped. We listened for maybe 30 minutes or so in silence and heard nothing, so we decided to go back to sleep. And not long after, the chopping started again, and at that time we became upset and threatened to fire again. My brother stuck his rifle back out and fired several shots after counting to 3. This time we heard something for sure. It started walking along the north wall going west and then down the west wall leading to the south end of the cabin where the door was. When we heard the first steps, we became terrified. It was very heavy and was 2 steps, not 4-legged. When it turned the corner and went south toward the door end of the cabin, we all jumped from our beds and loaded our guns. And what I see next, I can still see in my mind to this day. It leaned over from the west side of the door and looked through the 8-inch gap at the top of the door. All of us paused for maybe about 3 seconds and then began firing at the door. The door seemed to disappear almost. It was riddled. When everyone was reloading, it apparently moved to the east side of the cabin and it smashed down the tin roof. It hit it. We unloaded on that wall. We reloaded and listened to the best we could and didn't hear anything, especially after shooting in a small place. We were terrified and huddled in the center of the cabin, wondering what to do. We stood there for a couple of minutes and decided we needed to leave and get out of there. The only problem was that we only had 1 4-wheeler with us and 2 of us walked up to the cabin. We couldn't get all of us on the 1 4-wheeler. We voted, and my brother and I were going to jump on it and ride like a bat out of hell back to the neighbor's house and get his father to come and get the other 2. So we slowly opened the door and spotlighted what we could see if we saw anything. We looked at the ground to see if we saw blood, and there was none. We slowly creeped out, and looking as we went in every direction while making our way to the 4-wheeler. And once we got on it, we rode faster than seemed possible. We made it to the house and told his father what had happened. and he grabbed his gun and we jumped in his truck. There's a jeep trail that leads up to the cabin. When we got there, the others came running out, and we told his dad, just take us off the hill, don't hang around, and he drove us off the hill. This happened about 30 years ago, and to my knowledge, no one went back up to that cabin again, not even my neighbor's dad. The face I saw looking at us wasn't a bear, as I've hunted bears and know what they look like. It was covered in short, dark hair that laid close to the skin. The eyes were big, heavy brow, and I don't care if anyone believes me or not. I know what I see, and so do the other people that were there. I've heard several years later screams and other things from the woods behind my parents' home, and one of the other neighbors had their cabin hit and stuff carried off from their place at night. Tree knocks have also been heard by several people. The screams I've heard sound identical to some I've listened to on TV from others' recordings. Very loud and bizarre sounding. I've only been back in those hills a handful of times since my encounter, and it's not a very comfortable feeling. I've told this as best I can, and I hope it's understandable. Heath. I was 95 yards from it. Oh, wait a minute, here's another one. How did this happen? Who cares? Whatever. Here's another email right underneath Heath's. Heath, I absolutely appreciate you sending that in, man. I apologize, I haven't read it before, but I got it. Sounds freaking terrifying. What a shitty ending to a wicked, awesome, adventurous, healthy life you guys were kicking off there. Damn. If you're still here, chime in again maybe one day and see if you got any more updates or knowledge, or maybe, you spoke to some other people about in the area what they experienced, maybe, possibly, right? Holy shit. Now here's another email underneath his in the same little folder. Each email is in its own folder, all right? This is titled, I was 95 yards from it. Hi, Steve. I recently discovered your channel on YouTube as we just got Netflix on our smart TV. Otherwise, I'm not socially connected at all, so this is a whole new thing for me. I'm hooked on your channel, and I appreciate your straightforward, honest approach to dealing with the issues and people. A little background on me. I'm 57 and have had a lifelong passion for deer hunting, trapping, and fishing. I've spent hundreds of hours camping, scouting, and hunting the western states pursuing my passion. I spent 11 years on the USMC Recon, most of which as a scout sniper. I was involved in many missions all over the Middle East and Africa and Serbia and saw a lot of combat and horrible things. I can handle myself in the woods or anywhere else. My son is also a very passionate outdoorsman. A hunter found you on YouTube and convinced me that I needed to write to you and tell you my story. He's one of only a few people I've ever told, but he knows my word is the only thing that matters to me, so if I said it, it happened. I watched some of the TV shows and heard some broadcasters and personalities who all seem to think this is some sort of a joke. I wonder how much time they spent in the woods, or how much time they spent with mortars going off around them and .762 AK-47 rounds were flying by their face. I wonder why their words would be more honest than mine. Douchebags. His words. It was 2006 and I was hunting in Central Oregon on the east side of the Cascade Range, trying to kill a big blacktail. This is sounding familiar, believe or read it. I had my base camp set up about 4,000 feet in a small clearing about 4 miles from any road. I spent the first 2 days scouting and found a buck that I wanted to try for. So on the third morning, I set off an hour before sunrise and started heading up the slope to a good spot where I could see easily. a couple of meadows at first light. I got set up, leaned my rifle against the tree, and started wiping the dew off my binoculars and opened up a power bar. It was still a little dark to see, so I started turning my eyes into the meadow while I ate my breakfast. I'd made at least 20 do-it-yourself hunts in the western states in my life, but never to this particular area, as I've never killed a big blacktail, and this was supposed to be a good area. Not having the funding for an outfitter/guide, I always went by myself on public land and had a good time. So the first light comes and I start glassing the meadow. I heard some noise off to my left in the west. It sounded like something was coming up the ridge. It was going to come out in a small neck, down, that fed into the meadow. I turned and got my rifle up, assuming it was a deer. I can see movement in the brush about 100 yards to my west, but the brush was thick enough I couldn't make it out, but could tell it was not a deer. Eventually I could make out that it was upright, so I assumed it was another hunter. He got to the edge of the meadow and stood there, kind of crouching behind some bushes. I'm getting a little pissed off as someone else got into the same area I was in. I hadn't seen a soul in 2 days. I scouted for any human tracks. I rose up slowly and whistled at the guy, waving my right arm over my head, letting him know, hey, there's a hunter here, go somewhere else. He immediately wheeled to his right to face me directly, and when he did that, I could see he was immense across his shoulders. I thought, holy Christ, I'm 6'2", 220, and he made me look like a child. As soon as he saw me, even though it was dimly lit, I could tell we were looking at each other, and he ducked down in the bushes. I thought, what the hell? So I set my rifle against the tree and stepped out into the meadow so he could get a clear look at me. I started walking towards him. I want to hunt this area. I want to go somewhere else. I want to hunt this area. I want him to go somewhere else. There's plenty of time for him to leave and do that. I took about 5 steps and he stood up again. And this time I could tell it was not a man. It was just too damn big and covered in hair. He started grunting at me and shaking the bushes in front of him. My rifle was still leaning against the tree where I had originally sat, and I raised my Zeiss up and looked at his face. I can't tell you a ton of details. I was totally startled. But he had dark hair, certainly all over what I could see. Except for the face, there was a lot of flesh. A broad forehead, a broad nose, big lips, a huge set of shoulders and chest. I couldn't see his legs very well because of the brush, but I've spent countless hours looking through binoculars and a rifle scope. I know exactly what I'm looking at when I'm looking, and this is no man, and it was no ape, and it was no joke. It was no dumbass in a ghillie suit. The whole instant only took a matter of minutes, but it never stopped grunting, growling, or shaking the bushes at me. Though it never came out in the clearing or towards me any further, it certainly made me feel like it did not want me there. And I was in danger. He was downhill from me, so it was hard for me to get a judge at his height, but the bushes were clearly 4 to 5 feet tall, and it was well above those. I'm going to guess a good 7 or 8 feet tall, with shoulders a good 4 feet across, with massive arms, and head were also massive in proportion to a human. I was within 95 yards of this thing with a clean line of sight looking through quality optics. I've never seen anything like it before or since, and I do not ever want to see another one. It was truly a spooky deal. I instinctively backed up. I picked up my rifle, shouldered it, and centered the crosshairs on his face. It stared at me intently and very menacing. It would have been an easy shot. Still, something told me inside not to shoot. Something told me it was absolutely the wrong thing to do. So I held my rifle up with my right hand and raised my left hand over my head and looked at him in a submission. I didn't know what else to do. I slung my rifle, picked up my backpack, and headed back down the trail to camp, never looking back. I never heard him or saw him again. I got back to my tent, packed up everything, headed down to the truck, went to town. I stayed the night in town, and in the morning I drove to a new hunting area, 35 miles to the north, to finish out my trip. I didn't want to waste my tag or waste my Bible vacation time, so I tried my best play. I ended up unsuccessful in filling my tag that season, and yes, I was rattled the whole time. I've only told my family and a few close friends my story. My son believes me. I don't know if anyone else does or doesn't. I don't really give a shit. I got nothing to prove to anybody. I know what I saw, and as I said, a man's word should be enough. Thanks for hearing me out. I really appreciate what you're doing. It's nice to have a sounding board to get this off my chest. It's been almost 14 years. I relive it every single day. I cannot get it out of my mind. Everything that goes bump in the night, what makes a sound in the woods gets my immediate attention. Isn't that crazy? Question mark. Especially after what I've been through. What a world we live in, huh, Steve? Be careful, my friend, and God bless. Feel free to contact me anytime. You can share my story with others if you want. Semper Fi, Kurt Johnson. Kurt, I read this before, and I knew where it was going, and I know there's who knows how many new people here, and I don't give a shit. You know, some people complain, you already read that one. Be the person reading it. Doesn't upset me. That's an email everyone needs to hear maybe a couple times. And I get it. Once that goes down, every single sound you hear in the woods gets your attention. you can't not ever again. Never ever. And you can never ever be 100% focused at your task at hand when you're in the woods, especially by yourself. You can't. Well, no, even more so when I'm with, like when I got Sarah with me in the woods, I'm even way more alert than I am when I'm by myself. You can never not be ever again. Never again. Once you know the truth. Once you know truth, right? Truth. Stress the truth part. Here's another one. I mean, we're talking, I was surfing through hundreds of emails marked as read, and then boom, there's one marked as not read. And that's where I grabbed these emails this morning. Excuse me. This is titled, It Happened to Us Elk Hunting. Hi, Steve. Hope this is the right email to send you the story of my best friend's encounter with one of these beings. My buddy and I became close in the Marine Corps. We have been deployed twice together, and we have been in some serious shit together, too. Nothing that we've been through in Iraq has even been close to what happened to us elk hunting that day, said every vet that's come here. My buddy is from the South. And during our years in the service, I used to go on and on about hunting stories from my childhood. Besides the occasional whitetail buck, he had never shot any big game, so I promised to take him elk hunting. Well, the opportunity came, and I took him into a very remote location in southeast Idaho. It's a very rough country and remote, so you either hike in or take a pack string in. We took out trusty steeds, and on the first day we rode about 12 miles in and made camp. The first day/night was kind of unnerving, and the two horses and mule were acting very on edge. And I just chalked it up in the first day jitters. We decided in the morning we would ride over to the next ridge that overlooks good drainage, that should give us good shots if the elk are out feeding. The ridge we rode to was another 3 miles away from camp. We hunted all morning and didn't see anything, and ate lunch, and the whole time we felt as if we were being watched. My buddy kept saying that he came out here to relax, and instead he can't help but feel like shit is about to go down. I would play off his comments like he wasn't used to the backcountry, even though I knew something didn't feel right. Getting close to dusk, we headed back for camp. And as we headed for camp, I noticed how quiet the forest became. Our horses got really spooked and snorty, and I could smell this nasty, musty piss smell. For a split second, I thought, perfect, we found some elk. Smelled nothing like elk. And then, almost like a fire hydrant, this god-awful scream erupted. Our horses both reared up and damn near came down over backwards. My buddy and I both fell off, and there our horses go thundering off through the timber toward camp. So there, my buddy and I are standing in the middle of a horse trail, scared shitless. I had my 30-06 slung across my back. Thank God. So when I got dumped, my rifle came with me, and my buddy had his semi-auto 10mm. It was damn near dark, and we didn't really know what to do. And here are two seasoned combat vets that are so frightened they don't dare venture into the darkness back to camp. So we did what we had done before when we were cut off. We sat on the ground back to back, arms ready to fight our way out. We sat there in the middle of the trail back to back the whole night. And during the night, we heard various whoops and hollers mixed with strange calls anywhere from 100 yards to 75 yards away. Way too damn close, it's all I know. We heard towards camp some loud noises, and all I could think is, whatever this is has killed our horses. He wasn't too concerned about the mule. I wasn't too concerned about the mule. She's nasty and mean, and would probably kill a wolf pack if given a chance. Finally, after one of the most miserable nights, daylight finally came, and we got the hell back to camp. What we found was the mule still tied up, but the horses were nowhere to be found. But the hoof tracks were headed in the right direction for the trailer. We packed camp up on the mule and walked the 12 miles out. We got back to the trailer. There were our horses standing there, not a scuff on them, and all our gear in place. It is amazing to me. At camp, 3 miles from these bastards, our horses knew they were there. That was one crazy 48 hours, and I have to say, I'm glad my brother was there by my side. We have fought for each other before, and we were both ready to do it again that night. I hope we get some truth about these things. It would do them and us justice. Thank you so much for what you do. There you go. Glad I found your email and I got it read, my man. Appreciate you. We're learning. We're learning every time people email in. We're learning more. Every single time. It's just a matter of how many people are actually registering the knowledge and the patterns and putting it all together for themselves, right? Who next? Who next? All right, mark this as red. Wasn't marked as red, so here we go. It's Jack and the nice female Sabe from South Carolina. Wow. Update and crazy video is the title of this email. Hello, Steve. I hope you and Sarah are well as the pets and all the roundtable students and information bringers. Well, I'll start off and say I'm not doing so well now. I had planned on going back to the camp area solo to meet the friendly female forest Sabe. With the nice hooters, lol. What? I heard after my encounter someone else game hunting and reported into the news about a sighting also in Newberry. And he was possibly hunting the one he saw, and it's my hope to only want to get pictures. After the bigger, not so nice male visited me in the window, the pics sent in on my last email, I started having symptoms of radiation poisoning. What? No way. Or possibly in coming down with MS. I feel like shit, and I gave zero trust in any medical treatment for the half-assed so-called care of you getting better by them either. So I'm going at it on my own and will do my best self-treating. Since these 2 encounters, I've been having a serious amount of odd happenings and shit luck. And pictures and video to back me up now. So I get a security camera system, as anyone would, having the 8-foot male peering into my house and a red eye waving back and forth through a 3-inch cracked curtain, and I see it stop and blink before it leaves. I try to keep the curtains shut now, but I have cats, and they love looking out at the other wildlife here, and constantly open them as they wish, night and day. Night 1 of security cameras. I set them, attempting to cover entry point as best I can to my 3 acres. I find out I have a blind spot to my deep jungle area, as inside we hear a large guttural growl and limbs cracking, and sound of something drinking water. Upon later finding the water source was a tire 30 yards away, by the way. Anyway, me and Girl, is her nickname, are completely shitting ourselves inside as the microphone on the opposite turned camera with infrared is picking up this pissed off large animal right outside, assuming the large, not so friendly male has made my cams and is not very happy at all. It is having a tantrum right outside my mobile home behind the cam. We're next door to my very secure feeling old home house. We're doing some work to it and moved into this not-so-safe tornado trap temporarily, and I'm sitting next to a window 40 feet from the camera. I'm shaking like a leaf each time this thing growls, roars, and we can hear each deep breath it takes. I shake even harder. I'm basically sitting on my ready 30-06, and most any other thing, most people would rush out the door and open up. Oh, hell no. And I feel not one bit of comfort, or like it will do us any good if it came through the wall. It is sending me basic death threats to the point I can't even muster getting off the couch, feeling like I'm ready to go into a fetal position in my own structure, and really getting a every man for himself type feeling. LOL. We hear sirens coming in the distance, getting louder. That only intensified freaking it out. I'm trying to find a reason and work this out as I'm hoping not to meet this pissed off big guy. I start talking aloud to him, saying, "Are you okay? Can we help you? I'm friendly. I'm not going to call anyone on you. You're safe here. I can use this place to hide." Girl wants nothing to do with it, and I'm asking is, sorry, typos. Girl wants nothing to do with it. And is asking, "What the F are you doing?" I'm not sure what's going on with the timing of the sirens and the other chaos going on in the microphones outside. The growling and the grunting has become less loud. It was so loud it damaged all the microphones very soon afterwards. They crackle now. And the one camera completely failed. Done. I ask him to grunt if yes. Can I help you? I'm starting to think he used this as a cut-through like the deer and plethora of other wildlife. Coons, red fox, coyotes, black fox, rabbits, possums, you name it. It comes through, as I've seen now. He doesn't answer. Girl had bought a bag of apples for me to take for my solo camping trip and was not in agreement of me going on any level. I'm like, maybe I could take some apples to him and see if it's hurt or what's going on. She's like, "You're effing insane." I try to assure her if they wanted to hurt us, it would have been done so. They've already been on site here for months, if not longer, especially since the female encounter. They want to communicate, and I still will attempt now with even more contempt with those telling me don't do it. I say I'm coming out with some apples and I have a gun. I'm not going to use it if you don't try to hurt me. My friend, girl, is freaking out. Don't go out there. I've been thinking this for over 30 minutes at least, still shaking. Having something intelligent and unknown intermentions directly growling at you doesn't pass. Intermittent? Directly growling at you doesn't pass. I still shimmer when going outside at dark now. So I go outside shaking like a leaf so bad, I'm getting weak. I come to the corner of the trailer and peer around slowly. I have apples. I see nothing, but I can hear breathing from the heavily wooded area in the non-camera covered area. I throw the apples about where I think the sounds came from and further away. I say, "I can help you if you're a friend. Come to the door. I can take you back to Newberry if you need. In the back of my truck, I'll help you any way I can." I'm thinking I may have caused the sirens. Who knows? I'm freaked out still. It goes quiet. I come back in and there is no going back to sleep on any level. That was new to me. That was a new me moment in my 50 years to do the opposite, and now even more so. You say it, Steve. Live each day as it's your last. Just to gain the knowledge and truth, to me essentially now feeling ill and having hot spots coming up on me like I'm getting microwaves pointing at me, and I feel also fatigued. I can barely work now. Thank goodness I have a good man for boss and tell him everything and show him my videos of all the weird shit going on as of recent. The apples are gone the next daybreak. And Steve, I want to say these forest people are way deeper as far as portals and the lights that are being seen. That is over the target, and I have footage now of a shapeshifter taking place and turning into a ball of light. And I believe my redirected cameras is on a portal now. This is where the one came from that threw the tantrum, and where it and many other things go and come freely. And there was mention on your channel by maybe a First Nations elder of watch the trees, I think is what I remembered, and I've been on it. That is key. They are watchers that are shape-shifting, stationary. I'll try to go in order of shift. Bear, owl, cat, and one I call gremlin. There's also one of these on all 4 cameras. I have proof. I hate telling people and get the eye roll, and I say I have pictures. Even then, people have issues of believing me. I have no reason to look or sound like a lunatic. I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I didn't understand the camera system and lost the growling, drinking, and breathing as it has overwritten those files. I didn't know how to back it up and use my phone to record. I have full video of the animal shape-shifting and turning into a light and missing a strange, haunting, whistling sound as it flew along the ground. The eye lit up and left the body behind, and the eye trails light like a plasma behind it all the way off camera. I'm planning on loading it in the full 30 minutes of the WOW video I'm sending you now. It's about a minute and is never before seen video. This WOW video happened just in the last week and has put some of my puzzle together on how Sabe can travel and follow you home, among other beings. The bush on this video had been bombarded by orbs for weeks. There's a triangle of 3 points that are electrically charged. An apple tree, an old magnolia tree, and this bush in the video. The foreground, in the side I took off half the screen, the orb's way of travel, is a superhighway. And these orbs are launching from the bush into a 4th new electrical area that appeared for 30 minutes. The portal over the roof of my shop, the lit up area to the left foreground of the bush. There are many things going on in the entire screen view, another video I will show later once everyone can get a grasp of this. There's something big about to happen in the world, and I hope it's good and I get to see it. And my friendly Sabe girl before I leave. I hope this helps others gain knowledge from this round table truth, my brother. Thank you, Steve, for all you do. This one's for you, Steve only. All right. All I got is a screenshot right now with a feeder and a raccoon in front of it as a photo. So I guess this is going to have to be one of those look into, get a hold of items, right? Here's his phone number. And we'll pass that off to Sarah. So I'll copy this and put that in her folder, right? Copy. And then we go back. Sorry, guys. We're all sitting at the coffee table here, right? Nothing's rehearsed. This isn't entertainment. Okay, put that in there, and you are now in the look into, get a hold of folder that Sarah's in charge of. Sounds crazy interesting. And I wonder what's gone on since you originally emailed. So much going on in the world. Welcome to the club, right? Welcome to the club. Now, all right, here we go. Here's another one. Little Red Dots, the Kootenai and Manning Park is the title of this email. I better mark this as red. Sorry, marked as red. Steve, I was listening to your upload, quote, numerous experiences from the sea to sky region of BC, end quote, and was astounded to hear of the story at the time marker 10:01. A man had to track down his partner at 3 a.m. or so after she left the house. They both had 3 little red dots on their hand between the thumb and index finger. My younger brother, whom is half Navajo and Kootenai Indian, Knooknaksa, told me some two decades ago that one night him and his girlfriend drove to the Kootenays. On the Trans-Canada Highway and around Rogers Pass, they had to sleep as it was late at night. He said when he woke up, the windows had been rolled down and both him and her had 3 red dots on the part between the index finger and thumb, and that sounds exactly as the experience the person wrote about at Trail, near the Columbia River. Their experience occurred somewhere around 1999, if I'm correct. There might be more to the story, but I have to ask my brother, and he isn't one for using email. If I recall him correctly, it was winter, and when he woke up, he was cold and all the windows had been rolled down. He said he had no idea how it happened or the 3 little perfect triangle dots on his hand got there. I know my brother didn't know what it was from, but he said at other times he has had sightings before of things unidentified in the air at night. My Manning Park story has to do with the numerous trips I made going back and forth from the Kootenays to Vancouver and back again with a moving trailer. On more than one occasion I was driving at night through Manning Park, and my vehicle lets me know if there is another vehicle in my blind spot as a little yellow light comes on, and I know it happened at least twice on 2 different dates. I can't remember if it was on both sides or just my driver's. I know I saw the light turn on my driver's side anyway. There was no cars around, and I was towing a small trailer. The light never turned on with the trailer behind when no other vehicles were around, except those 2 or 3 times in Manning Park as I drove through it to Vancouver at night. I wasn't really scared, as I was going around 80 or 90 kilometers per hour and in my vehicle. I just don't know what caused the light to go on, and I let my imagination run wild, thinking maybe a Sasquatch out there was running alongside for a short while. Yeah, wouldn't be surprised. It would take me all day to drive to Vancouver from Cranbrook, and by the time I arrive at Manning Park area, it was already dark if I left too late in the morning. This is the same area. One day in around end of October 2020, I had to let my dog use the toilet, and I went to a spot where there was no snow under the branches of a tree. I found the empty pods of some rather large beans at that site. I got spooked, and some distant noise creeped me out. I picked up my dog before he could finish his business and went much further down the road to a safer location. That sounds weird. I found the empty pods of some rather large beans at that site. Weird. I think it was strange to find those bean pods. They were obviously there a while as they were wilted. No beans. Just little holes where they had been popped out and I assume consumed. I know there are houses in the vicinity and perhaps someone was there growing some rather long beans. They seem to be quite big, about 12 to 14 inches long. Holy shit. I'm assuming a Sasquatch sat under the tree beside that road and watched the traffic go by as it ate a bunch of beans that had been raided from a nearby garden. Sincerely, Troy Hunter. Who knows? I don't know about the bean part, but that's really alarming about the triangle dots, 3 dots in a triangle and the crook of your thumb and your finger. How many other people in BC or maybe Washington State or anywhere in the world has had that happen and can chime in here? Email me or throw it down in the comment section and let us know. That's creepier than shit. And I think it's safe to say we all know by now some strange shit's going on in the skies, right? Excuse me. I'd like to hear an update possibly too about the people with the 3 dots if they still have them. How's their health? Got a picture of them, you know? Okay, one more. Bigfoot in the Cascades, title of this email. Hi Steve, my name is Randy Parker and I'm 60 years old. You can use my name if you like. I'm from Washington State and I hunt the foothills of the Cascades for elk. 20 years ago, 2 of my friends and I had gone pre-season scouting for elk for the day. About the last half hour of daylight, we had found a main game trail at the end of a dead-end road on top of a main ridge, and we decided to take a short hike in and check it out. I decided to leave my .44 mag in the truck. never again. About 15 minutes into the hike, all three of us had heard the most deep, guttural growl off to our left, no more than 20 or 30 yards away. This seemed to vibrate through your body, a lot like a lion's growl, but louder. And at that moment, the three of us did a 180-degree turn back to the truck, and not one word was said until we were all in the truck. I was backing up. All we could say is, what the F was that? I've experienced a lot of encounters with bears, bluff charging me and popping their teeth, and even fighting in a close proximity. And I never had anything get to me as much as that growl did. Holy shit. I have a couple more stories I'll share with you later. Prayers go out to you and your friend and family. God bless. All right. Welcome to the club. I hope you did email back. You do email back with your update. Another elk hunter here. How long is this? All right. I'm going to get this done. Done. Red. Not marked as red, but it is now. Oregon elk hunt. Wolves and knocks. Hello, Steve. I have a bit of a long story for a short encounter I recently had. I was elk hunting in early November 21 in eastern Oregon, about 50 miles southeast of John Day, Oregon. My hunting buddy and I had drawn tags for the unit and were optimistic of a successful hunt. We had hunted this same unit for the first time in 2019 with no luck because we really hadn't had time to scout the area. We got lucky, drawing a tag in 21, since it's high demand hunt with lots of applicants in the tag draw. Anyway, I should backtrack a bit more to say that I have an older work buddy, Ken, that has hunted this same unit in the past, and I asked him for some tips of where to be concentrating my energy. He did, along with some stories. Yeah, those kinds of stories. He was hunting there around 2015 with another workmate, Rich. They were in a wall tent in the middle of a small clearing/prairie. And in the middle of the night, they were awoken by loud banging, as in tree knocking on the edge of the clearing. He said it went on for several minutes, as they stood outside the tent shining lights across the field to the trees and saw nothing. I later asked Rich about it, and he said, I don't know. I don't want to talk about it. I said, okay, and just went on with my day. People at work just listened to Ken's stories with a lot of sincerity. Ken also has stories of the Greys. So back to the 2021 hunt. My buddy John and I left camp a little late on the third day of the season to try a new area. We drove 3 miles west of camp on the paved forest road to an old logging road heading north. It went up about 1,000 feet to the 4,000-foot mark before dead ending at a gate. Beyond the gate to the north was an area that was logged maybe 40 or so years ago. The road behind the gate was now impassable. The fence that went to the east and west of the gate is a 3-strand barbed wire. John crossed the gate to the north. I walked the fence to the east. It was cold. The ground was frozen and crunchy. I walked the fence as quietly as I could for about a quarter mile, slowly going uphill on the spine of a long butte with the fence. 20-foot fir trees to my left and older big trees to my right. And as I got, about 2/3 up the hill, it all turned back into old growth. Then off to the northwest, I hear a wolf howl. Mind you, Oregon Game Commission says there are none in this area. Oh God, it just makes me laugh when governments make those statements to the public. Then a second, then a third. I believe I heard up to 5 wolves howling from my northwest all around the east. I estimate a half mile away. Anyway, I realized I was being surrounded, and I decided to backtrack. I radioed John, and I said, I'm getting out of here. He agreed. Not 100 yards later, the sling of my rifle broke, and I managed to catch it just before it hit the ground. Crap, now I have to pack this 15-pound Remington in my hands. I set my rifle against an old down tree and was tying up some paracord as a temporary fix, and as I tied the last knot, I see motion on my right. Something big, black, and four-legged, running at me 40 yards away. I thought bear, which I also had a tag for. I stood up, raised my rifle to see a 150-pound black wolf running straight at me. Safety off. Then it must have saw me and peeled off to my right, heading southwest. Now here's the fun part. As I'm following this wolf with my rifle, bam, directly behind me on the other side of the fence, no more than 100 feet, I hear a loud crack of wood on wood. I can only describe as a 10-foot long baseball bat hitting a 6-inch lodgepole pine. I didn't see anything. Not a sound. A motion, nothing. All I was thinking was, what the F was that? And where did that wolf go? And needless to say, I made sure my rifle and my 45 and my leg were good to go. And I steadily walked back to the truck with the rifle butted to my shoulder. I got back to the truck about 10 minutes before John, and all I could do was watch the trees with that nervous wariness of, is there something out there? To this day, I don't know if the wolf was sniffing me out or just ran my way and got spooked when a camoed thing stood up and pointed at it. I also wonder if some of those howls I heard were wolves, and the knock was a warning not to mess with my buddy. Have you ever heard of wolves coexisting with the big furry guy? I'm curious to know without finding out for myself. Oh, and by the way, we didn't see an elk the entire season, which is not common. Thanks for reading and enjoy the hell out of your channel. Chris O., Salem, Oregon. No, I haven't heard of them coexisting or hanging wolves myself. We have heard of dogs being with them. Wait, no, I don't know. I know a handful of people have reported them running with dogs. Maybe somewhere along the way, somebody may have reported seeing them with wolves. I don't know. I kind of doubt it myself, especially because of just my experience with wolves, where I had a good handful of experiences with these beings. They guarantee you they watched me kill wolves for many years, and they didn't do nothing to stop it. Nothing. They didn't do anything to try to attempt to prevent me from trapping wolves or scare me out of trapping wolves or scare me out of the area or messing with any of my sets. Not once. Although two of them were knocking above me that time near the stand. Remember the stand? And I showed you pictures of the stand. They were knocking above my sled and on their side of me. And we know now that that's not a threat. They definitely let you know they're there. And I don't believe they're trying to scare me away. But knowing what I knew at the time, I was like, I'm not into this shit. I'm out of here. And I left. But they have never ever once messed with me, and I've killed a lot of frickin' wolves. Especially there. I think there, just in that valley alone over the years, I think I killed around 65 wolves, I believe, right there. And for all you people that get upset with that, get educated, all right? They're just like mice in your barn. You will not kill them all. It's literally impossible. As far as I'm concerned, somewhere in British Columbia, there's a wolf factory. Because you can remove a pack, and boom, there's another pack there. They just keep coming. They never, ever stop coming. But anyway, yeah, I killed a lot of wolves in the presence of these beings. They watched me guaranteed. Never nothing. And then a quick side note, too, on the guesstimation of a wolf's size. You know, a lot of people ask me, how much do you think that grizzly weighed? Let's see a picture of one of the grizzlies I've got. I go, I don't know. I've never weighed a grizzly bear. I have never weighed a grizzly bear in my life, so I cannot accurately guess the body weight of a grizzly bear. I can kind of guess, probably be fairly close. I've weighed a lot of deer. I can tell you how, I can be real close to how much a deer weighs. I've weighed a lot of fish. I'll tell you within a couple pounds or a pound how big a fish is because I've weighed them. Now, wolves, saying that, on that note, saying that, it's not easy for anyone to guesstimate the weight of anything unless that person has weighed numerous of those themselves. Take wolves, for instance. A lot of people say that thing must have been 150, 200 pounds. Everybody says that. A lot of people say that, come up with that number. And what I'm going to share with you guys, just a little tidbit of knowledge. What the hell, right? So unless you've weighed a bunch of wolves, you're not going to know what a 150-pound wolf is, unless you're trying to compare it to a domestic dog. Now, our domestic dogs, is funny when you watch a domestic dog walk after you have watched wolves move. Wolves float. They're very graceful. They almost float on their feet. It's like a professional runner compared to somebody who's just doing their morning jog that's trying to jog. There's a big difference. Clump, 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 or just floating right along effortlessly, right? Our domestic dogs are obese, all of them. And they walk like it. But wolves are actually very, very trim. They're very thin. They're very tall with very big feet so they can run on top of crusted snow. But out of all the wolves, I've killed a couple hundred of them. The largest one I ever weighed was 137 pounds. And it was it looked like a monster. Just so you guys know. Just thought I'd throw that in. Excuse me. 150-pound wolf. Never seen one. Never had my hands on one. But I did see one photo years ago. I shared here before. Up near Trutch, I think, along Alaska Highway. Stopped to get some diesel. And this old trapper, the guy running the store at the time, looked like he was about 6'4", maybe more. He comes out and he's filling up the truck, this old style pump. Ting, ting, ting. You know, it's making that ting, ting, ting sound. And he goes, "You want to see a picture of a 250-pound wolf?" And I'm laughing. Look at my partner. I'm like, yeah, do I ever? You know what I mean? And if that old guy, 6'4", whatever he was, he came out with a Polaroid of this wolf. And it was hanging through its back kneecaps, just like a deer, right there. Hanging from the rafters, beside his head, and the neck and the head were laying on the floor of the shop beside him, right beside him. He wasn't in front of it, wasn't behind it, he was right beside it. And I just about shit myself. I'm like, oh my God. So there you go. There is always going to be that one or two freaks of each species, right? Just like humans. But I'll never forget that, ever. That thing was absolutely bizarre to see any kind of canine that big. 250-pound frickin' wolf. When meanwhile, a true monster wolf is around 130 pounds. You know? That was a bit of a rant, wasn't it? So anyways, I'm going to get ripping. I tore off about 200 square foot of wood off the shop yesterday and ran it through the thickness planer, and Sarah got it stained up last night. Now I'm going to put it back on, and because I got to get back out to the coast here quick. So bit by bit I'm getting that done. Sarah's going to be getting a hold of some people on here. I think I might get her to create the email Talk with Steve or Sasquatch and Steve or something to get your attention so you don't think it's spam. And take note, there's going to be an email coming from howtohunt.com from something at howtohunt.com to you to come on here and speak with me and talk about some knowledge. All right? It's not going to be spam. It's going to be Sarah. What else? That's about it. Share my story at howtohunt.com is where you can get your truth shared with a good chunk of the world through me here. And I encourage you to do it. And what else? Maybe send a few prayers out to the world today and pray that those dirty, filthy sons of bitches don't nuke our planet. You know what I mean? There's just too much killing going on, and it's all in the name of narcissistic, power-monging pieces of shit. Probably only, a couple dozen of them, a couple dozen human beings are pulling this shit around the globe. I'll bite my lip. Why do I bite my lip? I don't know. Anyway, appreciate everybody. I'll be back tomorrow. Should be.